and I didn't feel foggy. I felt like I was living in HD, if that
That's
makes
awesome.
any sense at all.
It
And I
100% makes sense.
and I knew from that point that keto was going to be something that I stuck to, weight loss or not.
Yep.
I'm James,
And I'm Emily.
and we show you our actual weight loss journey with the keto lifestyle.
Make sure you check us out on Instagram and Facebook, but most importantly, don't forget to get ready.
Set.
Keto.
We are joined by Dustin and Chandra from Keto Simple.
Yay! Hi, guys.
Hi. All right, you guys want to introduce yourself and tell us basically how you began keto?
I'm Chandra.
I'm Dustin. We're Keto Simple, and we started keto at the same time.
Right?
It was because of me. I had a hyoidal hernia.
No.
Or umbilical
You had
hernia.
an umbilical hernia.
Umbilical hernia. Right.
And it was
Like a size of a fist.
Yeah, and the skin around it was getting pretty thin. Sorry, I'm a nurse. I'll try not to be too gross. It was looking pretty bad, and he needed surgery on it.
And so in the long story short, in the process of going through the consultations to have that all taken care of, I was at my GP and I stepped on the scale and I was 421 pounds and like almost had like a nervous breakdown. I was like, how could this be? Even though you see it happening, you know, there were obviously telltale signs. I've discussed this before, but like I wasn't able to use our downstairs bathroom. You know, I was wearing 50-inch pants, 5X shirts.
I was worried I was going to wake up in the morning with him dead next to me. I knew
Apnea.
he had undiagnosed sleep apnea. I was 99% sure he was diabetic. And like, I'm no picture of health to start with either, but I could diagnose everything wrong with him. When we went to see your doctor and mentioned about losing weight,
he mentioned that if we wanted to lose weight, we needed to be in ketosis, but he didn't
go any further.
Right. Yeah, he didn't.
That's all he said.
Right. And I had already been looking up low carb. We'd already discussed going low carb because we had discussed the possibility of me having some sort of weight loss surgery.
Right.
That I'm not a fan of. I've had many patients over the years who've had weight loss surgeries, Roux-en-Y, gastric bypass, gastric sleeves. They are effective surgeries, but they come with significant complications. And my fear is that you're going to get healthy by a bad means and end up with complications that you're never going to get cured from and have to repeatedly go back in and have more surgeries or have other things go wrong.
Right.
So what we did with that, we put that on the back burner and said, well, let's try low carb. Keto wasn't in our zeitgeist at the time. So we said, let's go low carb. And I started looking up recipes and I kept coming to these recipe pages with keto. They were more focused to the epileptic children. And then when the doctor mentioned keto, I'm like, you've got to be in ketosis. I'm like, ketosis. I've heard that before. So then I went and I started looking at podcasts and stuff to see what it was all about. Found two keto dudes, Carl Franklin and Richard Morris.
And then the doctor, was it Dr. Berry that you found first?
No, I didn't. Well, I did find Dr. Berry through their podcast, but I found like Professor Noakes. And a bunch of other doctors and professors and all that stuff over the course of time. So then we decided, okay, well, let's
give it a whirl.
Let's give keto a whirl. And we went to the grocery store and we were really ignorant about what a carbohydrate really was.
Well, I think the thing is like, okay, I have very minimal nutritional education. Even going through nursing school, I think you probably spend 2 to 3 weeks talking about the American Heart Association and a heart healthy diet. That's about it. That's the extent. And so like you think you're doing low carb. We thought we were doing low carb, but in reality, we were still doing probably the approved American diabetic diet, which is still too many carbs for a diabetic.
Right.
Too many carbs for your average person.
We were probably doing 150 to 200 grams of carbs a day, thinking we were doing low carb.
Yeah.
So then once we found the keto, once we found keto and the two keto dudes, they were like less than 20 and they were, net carbs. So then that's how we started and
kind of steamrolled from there. It's been 6 years,
7,
whatever, a lot of years.
September 2016.
That's a long time.
It is a long time.
To be fair, he's usually pretty strict with it. in the last year or so. I haven't lost any weight at all. So in the last year or so, I'm kind of more like every other week I'll do whatever I want.
Right.
Like I'll stick with keto, but I might do, I might get a fast food meal once every other week, or, I might get caramel coated popcorn every other week kind of thing.
Right.
But he's usually pretty good with it.
Because pre-pandemic, I got down to like 275.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to kind of throw it out there, I weighed myself today. So for the first time during the whole BB&E thing, I weighed myself today, and I wish I didn't. So that's kind of where that whole Dawn thing is like Dawn and Mike are doing like that no way. And I was like, kind of where I wanted to be, but at least needed like a jumping off point.
Right.
And I was 330.9.
Yeah.
And
I don't weigh myself.
Where did
I
you
know what
start
I
at?
I started it at overall, at the very beginning, I was over 420 pounds. Yeah.
Over 420, and then your lowest was 275.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Around
Yeah.
that. And now you just started BBB&E 1 week ago, right?
Yes. 1 week ago yesterday.
So what made you decide I want to do beef, butter, bacon, and eggs?
It's the trend.
It is a trend. I mean, there's
Yes.
definitely a trend to it. And I figured it would be something that would help kickstart us in the right direction,
Mhm.
because we had been allowing ourselves more and more and more,
Finding more flexibility.
yeah, too much flexibility, right?
Right.
So, and with us going on a vacation where we're going to be walking like 10, 15, 20 miles each day,
Yeah.
it's going to be crazy. So I need to get,
That's a lot of miles.
that is a lot of miles.
I don't know if we're going to walk that many.
We did.
Did we?
Yeah.
I don't know. We need to wear a watch and count it.
Yeah. So just getting kind of back into that, like that, and like I bought all these clothes when I was down in like the 270s. That was like 2019. I was starting a new job. I went and bought a whole new wardrobe for this new job. And I was wearing 38, 32s and, 2X, 1X shirts. And now those don't fit me anymore. So I've outgrown those again, which is devastating. And it kind of does help. And that kind of pushes that spiral, right? So you
Right.
kind of start not being able to fit in your old clothes, then going and picking up fast food seems easier. You know what I mean? So I think that really cemented the fact that we needed to do a restart like Triple B&E.
Right. And I think it's important because you're not the only ones. I mean, there's a lot of people that struggle and tend to get flexible, and sometimes it gets a little bit more flexible than we think at the time. And beef, butter, bacon, and eggs is a great way to reel it back in.
We do our weigh-in every Saturday, even though we're like, I'm like 2 pounds from my goal and Emiley's at her goal now. But I think that's the real reason when people's like, well, how much longer are you going to do your weigh-ins and things like that? It's like, I don't plan on stopping weigh-ins because I know myself, and the weigh-ins is what helped me get to where I'm at. And the weigh-ins is what's going to keep me here.
Right, because it's easy to, it's relatable, being more flexible with yourself and saying, well, this is going to be, this meal or this day or whatever it might be for you or anyone else. Beef, butter,
I do
bacon,
feel
and
like
eggs.
when you were weighing in more frequently, it helped you kind of see your goal. It just kind of does keep it in the forefront.
And even if, if someone who's weighing in all the time, even if you're not losing, but sometimes
at least you're maintaining.
Yeah, that weighing in keeps you like, oh, I went up, I need to not do that.
Yeah, or reevaluate what you've done over the past week. I think it's a great way to have that kickstart.
And when I got to my biggest, it was probably because I probably went 6 months without getting weighed, and then you get on the scale, it's like, oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, being at over 400 pounds, like that, like you said, you start getting into 50-inch pants, 5X t-shirts, not being able to do things like use specific stalls in the restrooms at work or a specific bathroom at your house. There's a problem, and it takes time to kind of come to the realization, accept it, and then make a plan to move forward. So, and it really did take that, me stepping on the scale, seeing 421, not even really knowing if that was ever my heaviest.
Right.
And then going, okay, we have to do something. We have to move forward. And what is our plan?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Well, then like we had talked about it, but it never, I mean, I've always been a big girl. Always.
Me
I've
too.
never been small. And so like somebody else telling you you're fat, you're like, yeah, no, I got it. I know. Thank you. I own a mirror.
Right.
Thanks. Got that. But when you realize that yourself and you're just like, oh God, you know, this is not where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, for Dustin, it took that. And for my whole life, I've dieted. I mean, I don't think I've had a minute where I wasn't dieting.
Right
when I
there
was
with
in
you.
middle school, I was in a 2X t-shirt, and I remember thinking, what am I going to do if they don't sell bigger shirts in middle school, like 7th grade?
Yeah.
Aw.
So that's kind of always been there. And I mean, like, and I think that even back then in the 90s, like the early 90s, like 2Xs were smaller than a 2X now.
Yeah.
So it was probably like a 1X now, but at the time, and it was still kind of like tight on you. And I was the fat kid. I would wear like those shirts, or I'd wear sweatpants all the time. I never wore jeans. I still don't wear jeans. I don't really like them, but I still prefer like Dickies and stuff like that. But that sticks with you too. So yeah.
I remember my mom when I was in like 7th or 8th grade going and buying me jeans, and they were like sweatpants, but they were colored like jeans. They had the elastic, waistband on them, and it's so kind of humiliating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was the youngest of 5 kids, 4 of which are girls. And I was the only fat one. And I got my brother's hand-me-downs because he was a boy. So they were cut a little bit different. But when I was in high school, I was wearing a size 12 and I was huge. Like I was giant as far as like anybody in my family was concerned. And there wasn't a moment of my life that I don't remember dieting.
That sucks.
And it's sad to think back that way.
When I look at pictures when I was that young, I was like, oh my God, she was skinny. She was skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the reality then.
So Dustin, you plan on doing beef, butter, bacon, and eggs until October?
I do.
And Chandra, how long are you doing beef, butter, bacon, and eggs?
I told Dustin I would do it for the month and see how I feel. When we first started keto, I had big reactions to changing my diet. Emotionally, it was very bad for me. It probably took
Like 6 months.
6 months for me to be like, oh, yeah, I finally don't feel absolutely miserable and hating my life. So
Right.
we'll see how this goes. So far, I'm not miserable. I do feel tired.
I was miserable the first week, the first like 3 or 4 days, because I also elected to cut out caffeine, which I'm guessing I'm a bigger addict than I thought I was. So there's that.
That would be rough.
Yeah.
That would be rough.
Dustin, do you have any regrets on saying October?
No, because I know I can legitimately stop whenever I want to. So I always kind of have that in the back of my head. So if I did like the hard fast, like it's going to be, no matter what, October, I think I'd be in the same boat you were like the first 3 days. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was
And
bad.
I know that
James
I know that we've got birthdays coming up, we've got holidays coming up, and then
Right.
conferences. That means I'm gonna be going to the Tennessee conference and Kentucky conference, doing this if everything goes according to plan. So I'm gonna do what I set out to do because I know that I need it.
Since you guys have started, is there any non-scale victories that you want to talk about? Do you still have like the sleep apnea?
Well, as far as like from beginning of keto to now, I don't use my CPAP as much as I used to, hardly at all anymore.
Yeah.
I
don't notice him not breathing as often anymore. I don't have to be like, hey, wake up. You're dying next to me.
Yeah.
No.
So, there's that. I don't use my CPAP. I probably should still continue to use it because I did sleep very well with it.
Yeah.
But it gets annoying.
He has better physical stamina. He can go for a walk with our granddaughter and not get winded and not get tired and not have to sit down. So I think that's helpful.
Whatever we take with us, I have to carry home, or her too.
Yeah. Oh, all of the above. For me, just since doing keto, I don't get that 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that I need to take a nap or I need a snack.
Right.
Yeah, I used to, because my shifts are 12 hours plus. And come 4 o'clock, it used to be cookie time. We got to go get cookies, got to go get a coffee and a cookie just to stay awake for the last 4 hours of the shift. And now I don't have that. I don't usually eat until between 2 and 4 now anyway. I just go. It just works.
Right.
I had the office life at that time before we were doing that. And it would be like 2 o'clock and I'd be sitting there dozing off at my desk in front of the computer, trying not to fall asleep, but literally fighting, dozing off. And I would get up and go. And it was an office. So there was always somebody had some kind of bowl of candy, or there was like some kind of leftover food from a kitchen at the windows or something like that. Or there was, there was obviously vending machines and such like that. I could walk over at certain points of time to the coffee shop and get coffee. So there's always something. And then that was one of the biggest non-scale victories, twofold at the same time, that I really remembered. I remember sitting at work, sitting in my chair. It was 2 o'clock. I was wide awake and I didn't feel foggy. I felt like I was living in HD, if that makes any sense at all.
It 100% makes sense.
And I knew from that point that keto was going to be something that I stuck to, weight loss or not. So, I mean, even though we may not be the most strict at the, kind of coming up to, triple B&E, not being as strict as we think we have been, we're still primarily keto. We don't bring things into the house. Even try with the granddaughter, we still try to maintain some semblance of normalcy for her, because I think we're backwards with that, where her parents are giving her the candy and we're like and we're not.
Yeah, we went to Costco today and she tried a piece of a cookie because the samples, and she took a half a bite of it and was like, "Ew, I don't like that," and threw it out. And I was like, "Yes,
win."
Yes,
that's awesome. To circle back to triple B&E, this seems to be a topic for a lot of people. Have you noticed any bathroom changes?
Not really. More so depending. I think mine are more so when I up my electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the electrolytes, sometimes the magnesium in them will kind of push that agenda, if you will.
Well, I went out to lunch with a friend on day, what was it, 3? I think
day 3, yeah.
Day 3, day 4. And that was her first question, like, "Are you ever going to poop?"
It seems like it goes one way or another for everyone.
Yeah. And I came home and I had to send her a text. It worked. But no, I haven't noticed one way or the other. I'm pretty much consistent with how I've been for a long time.
Hey, that's not a bad thing, though.
When I've done carnivore, and I've been very strict with carnivore, I noticed that I go a lot less, and I don't have, it's not a constipation thing. It's just, you don't feel bloated. You don't feel like you need to go. You just kind of have to go when you got to go, and it's not a huge deal. So it's kind of like fasting as well.
Right.
Hey, that's a good topic. Do you ever fast?
I do. I am a big proponent of long-term fasting. I have done everything from 48 hours all the way to 21 days.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't.
Now,
I don't. I drink my coffee in the morning, and then, like I said, I usually, if the girl's here, I'll eat breakfast or brunch with her. But at work, I won't eat till 2 or 4. So I don't know. That's a couple hours in between.
Right.
That's as much as I can do. And I'm sure I could do it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Dustin, when did you do the 21-day fast?
That was something that I did right as I was starting the channel. That's what kickstarted the channel forward. The year before, I had put a video out and it just kind of sat there for a year. It was like my story, kind of a video. And then January 1st, 2021, I started, shorts weren't a thing yet, but I was doing like short form content, like 2-3 minute videos every day, outlining my fasting. I didn't quite have it down. I did 21 days, and it was kind of a poor timing, if you will, because during that 3 weeks, we had like new floors put in, and we had to like move everything from downstairs into the garage, everything upstairs, downstairs, and then everything then back upstairs. And it was a nightmare. Like
He was not terribly helpful.
Like,
He had no energy. He was exhausted.
So yeah, that was bad timing. But I mean, I don't think there was ever really a time where you can decide to not eat for 3 weeks and not run into something.
Right, right.
Just curious, what was your results on that?
I'd have to go back and look. I know I did a 2-week fast, not too terribly long ago, about a year ago, and I documented every day my blood glucose, my ketones, and weight every single day for the 14 days, minus 1 day maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I lost like 40 pounds.
Oh wow!
Did
Something
you
like
notice?
that. But I mean, a lot of that's water. So I mean, yeah.
And he's done it a couple of times of at least a week or more. So he's pretty good at like knowing when he can't go any further.
Right.
Like the 21 days, I think he had initially set out to do it for a month, but then
No, I had tried to do 21 days before,
what it
and I
was.
made it to 14 or 15 days, maybe 13 days. And my body was like, you have to stop.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So it was kind of like, for me, it was a personal goal to do 21 days. I don't really have a desire to go that long anymore unless I absolutely have a legitimate reason to do so, say cancer or something, serious like that. But a week or 2 weeks, that's cakewalk for me anymore. I hate to say it like that, but like 7-day fast for me anymore is not hard to me, but it's taken 5+ years of, 24 hours here, 36 hours there, 48 hours there, 72 hours. And then you just slowly work your way up and you know how to play with the fluid and you play with your electrolytes and you just make it through.
Right. Yeah. That would be hard for me.
Yeah,
I have no interest in doing it.
I think anything more than a day or two just kick my butt.
He does pretty good. He gets to what it's about the 2-week mark when you're like, then he's talking about food nonstop. I mean, nonstop. He's like, you know what would be good? And I'm like, no, I don't. And I don't care. You're hungry. Your body's trying to tell you to eat. He's like, no, tell him your theory about that's the portion of fat.
That's the fat of food, junk food past. It's like the ghosts of the junk food you ate years ago coming to get you as you burn that fat. It's like, you remember Domino's.
That's terrible.
Remember that Twink you had in 2013?
Right. What is your favorite go-to meal? And this can be beef, butter, bacon, and eggs or keto, but if you're hungry and you're like, I want this, 9 times out of 10.
I know mine. Do you know yours?
Steak.
9 times out of 10, steak.
What kind?
Well, we've talked about so it really depends. Like we both like kind of like a mix between like strip and sirloin, or not strip and sirloin, but strip and ribeye.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of bounce back and forth between like strip, sirloin, and ribeye depending on price.
Yeah.
We bought a bunch of like ribeye and strip today, but
whatever's cheaper at the time or whatever's on sale at the time.
Oh yeah.
But since we've been doing the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, we've been having broth in the evenings before going to bed. Oh my, it's so good. Like, I know it sounds silly. It's just beef broth with some salt. He puts eggs in it and
butter.
I prefer mine without the eggs in it, but it's like warm and toasty, and we usually have it like, I don't know, the hour we go up to bed and sip on our broth and then watch movies or whatever, or watch a TV show. And it's like, I don't know, it's just warm and cozy, and it makes me less cold when I go to bed.
Yeah.
It tastes good.
2 different ways. You can make it to where you temper the egg to where it doesn't like clump up like scrambled eggs or like egg drop soup. So you can temper it that way and it becomes like a really thick, like hot, almost like coffee type. It's real creamy and good. It's like a beef broth coffee. Or you can do it like the egg drop soup style. So I kind of like it both ways, just depending on how I feel that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know you're from Keto Simple. Is there any other places that people can find you on the internet?
Twitter and Instagram, they're all Keto Simple. I do have a keto Facebook page, which is Keto Indianapolis, because Keto Simple was somehow taken somehow. I don't know. I haven't been able to find it, so I don't know where, why. But yeah.
And he does all the social media stuff. I don't. I have a different channel that is Chandra Law. It's about reselling on eBay. Not the same thing, not keto at all, but that's what I do on the side. It's my side gig.
I get it.
One more thing. Do you have a favorite keto product? Because I know you do a lot of reviews. I was just curious. Do you have a favorite keto product that's never let you down?
I feel like we consistently keep the wisps, like the cheese wisps in the pantry, and those get used. We have a whole pantry full of things that we've tried once and never eaten again.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
a ton of open stuff that we will never touch again.
It's probably stale. We should probably throw it away.
Probably. But the cheese wisps and or moon cheese, those are the
We
ones.
haven't had moon cheese in a while.
Yeah, they haven't had it at Costco. But those are the ones that are in the pantry that get used.
Right.
The pepper jack ones, they were on sale, so and they're good through like middle of next year. So I bought 2 bags
Stable.
today, even though
Yeah, I like them as croutons. I like them as just snacks.
They work for everything. We put them on top of our meat soup, like chili. I call it meat soup because it doesn't have anything else in it anymore. So we put it on that. We can put it in actual soup. You can just eat them as a snack. You can eat them with,
good
salami.
on the road, too.
Good
Road
on the
trip snack.
road. Yeah.
Right.
They multifunction snack, and we keep them
Okay.
and they get utilized, and even the granddaughter likes them. So
Right. Now, everyone keto is different, right? Your keto is going to be different from my keto or his keto. But if you were to meet somebody and they were interested in low carb, keto, carnivore, somewhere in that realm, what would your one piece of advice be for them?
Keep it simple. I mean, just focus on meat, eggs, butter, bacon, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and such. And I mean, we really can't go wrong. Just make sure you're getting your animal fats and not using seed oils. I think boiling it down that easy is something that I think helps a lot of people. In the very beginning, I would try to help people and I would kind of go off into the weeds and I would lose them. So
yeah, he has a tendency to go a little far with things.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is to give yourself grace.
that too.
You're going to make mistakes. It's not that big a deal. We do. We've been doing it 6 years. We screw up all the time.
Right.
And so you just get up the next day and try again.
I like
Nobody's perfect.
that. That's right.
No total carb count or anything like that you would suggest?
I would say in the very beginning, if you were a very carb heavy person and you were coming off of eating mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese every day, net carbs, I would say is a good gateway. And then I think once you kind of get fat adapted, you start working towards your goals, then you want to start tightening up those carbs and start working more towards total carbs. Because I know when we first started, if someone would have said you're going to do total carbs, I probably would have failed and we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and I've had friends at work that I talk to and they're like, oh, I don't know how you can live off less than 20 carbs in a day. And it's like, well, it's really not that hard now that I do it, but I see where you're coming from. Just cut down to as little as you can tolerate. And then, in a week or 2 weeks, then cut back a little more.
Yep.
Cut back a little more.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I mean, I do want to talk about how awesome it was that you guys came out to the meetup and how amazing the overall meetup was, how everybody really truly pitched in. It was like those of us.
It was a family get together.
It was a very family get together. And like, I was able to spend time talking with people and like, I would look around and they were like chairs and tables gone. I'm like, what's happening? That was so amazing that everybody pitched in and like,
Yeah.
made it an amazing, wonderful event. And I'm so glad that so many amazing people came out. And I'm so honored and thankful that you guys came out too. And I got to hang out with Noah and you guys and invited to a slumber party. I'm into it.
Noah liked Dustin so much that he invited him to spend the night with him.
He was going to pay for an Uber for me to get back from Ohio.
No, he wasn't.
Well, he said, you just ride with us and take an Uber back to your car. And I was like, that's like $1,000.
That was a trick to get you to have to call someone to come pick you up.
Yeah, I would just live in Ohio at that point.
Yeah, well, it is a far drive.
That was
you can walk.
Fabulous, wonderful time. We had a lot of fun.
All right.
And it felt like a family get together for real.
All right. Well, you guys don't forget to check out Dustin and Chandra
Yes.
at Keto Simple
Yes.
on YouTube. and all the other places that they named. And I'm sure you'll like them probably more than they like the products that they review.
We like us.
We like us.
We like them. We kind of like them.
All right, you guys, make sure you go to subscribe to them. I'll have the link in the description below, and you guys have a great night.
And see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.